most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Question Reality. Question Reality with Priscilla Leona. Priscilla Leona. Only on LA Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome to Question Reality. I'm your host, Priscilla Leona, and we are coming to you live from Studio City, California. Our show is broadcast every Sunday from 5 p.m. to 5:50 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, if this is your first time tuning in, our show will help you question your career reality. This show is for you if you were, are, or might be considering a career in the entertainment industry. Our guests will provide advice and resource information on how and what it takes to successfully pursue a career in show business. Our guests work in various professions of entertainment, so that means we will definitely have someone on the show sooner or later from a career that you are interested. If you want to check out our past guests, read their bios, listen to their interview instantly, or download one of our previous shows, go to the LA Talk Radio website, and that address is latalkradio.com. Click on the link at the top of the website that says Channel 1. You scroll down and you look for the graphic of our show with my cute little face on it, and it'll say Question Reality. You click the link, and this will take you directly to our archive page where you can view the list of our past guests. Our shows are also available for download on iTunes, and we're under the podcast section. You just have to type in Question Reality Radio in the search box, and you'll find all of our shows, hopefully. If you want to find out about our future guests, we have an official Question Reality website, and you can visit that. The address is questionreality.us, not .com, questionreality.us. And it'll give you all of our guests all the way up until the end of March. We're just so fortunate. Our show has become so popular that we're usually booked 6 months to a year in advance. So right now we just started booking guests, so we're booked until the end of March. But we asked our guests if they know anyone who is a professional in the entertainment business and they want to come on and share their success story. We would love to have them on. We look for award-winning producers, directors, casting people, actors, musicians, anyone in the entertainment business. That's common sense. So they can contact us through questionreality.us. Okay. Now, just want to give you one little advertisement today. I know everybody looks forward to the events that I do every week, and thank you so much for the emails. They're so encouraging. If you haven't listened to the show before, every week I announce things that are coming up that are in the entertainment business, things to go, film finance panels, how to get funds to make your own movie, where to go for directors classes, where to go to learn about how to become a producer, acting workshops, anything that you want to know. Every week I announce the latest things that are happening. So what do we have for you today? One little thing I want to announce, because Kerry, our guest today, has so much information for you. I don't even feel like I'm going to announce anyone else than this one little thing. Okay, so tomorrow, November the 8th, there is a very important film finance panel at the American Film Market that everybody is talking about. So I definitely have to get that out to you. If you want to find out more about that, it's AmericanFilmMarket.com. AmericanFilmMarket.com. And from what I understand, if you are looking to find places where, alternative places to get funds, the mother is tapped out, the father is tapped out, the relatives don't even want to talk to you anymore, there's no money for your film projects. Well, if you go to the American Film Market, they're going to tell you ways that you can get grants, you can get just money in places that you never thought possible. So check that website out and go down there, AmericanFilmMarket.com. Now, very exciting! This week, our guest is Kerry David. Now, if you've been listening to my shows for the past, I'd say 6 months, then you know that every so often I will tell you, Kerry's coming, Kerry's coming, Kerry's coming. It sounds like I'm announcing the British are coming. Well, you know what? That's because the British were coming, and she's here today. We have a lovely, lovely British implant today. Her name is Kerry David, and her website is kerrydavid.com, and that is spelled KERRYDAVID.com. And I want you to go there and check it out while we are briefly speaking. I'm going to read a little bit about her background, but you got to go to her website. I cannot actually explain all that this woman does just in this little brief bio. So while I'm telling you, why don't you go there and check it out? But basically, it's a new film consulting and mentoring site. And when I found out about this woman, I was screaming bloody murder. I'm like, oh my God, this is what I have been looking for to tell people about for so long, because so many people need this woman's services. Because a lot of people who get started in the film business and they want to make projects, not everybody knows what to do. They make a lot of mistakes. They spend so much money for nothing. They can't get money, or they spend it and waste it, and then their projects end up either not coming into fruition or they're really, really poorly made. So this lady, Kerry David, started this new film consulting and mentoring site. Now, she is a multiple award-winning producer, and she recently realized a long-time dream of this mentoring filmmakers on a one-to-one basis. And she did that by launching her new consulting website. Again, kerrydavid.com. And what is great about this is no matter where you are in the process of your film or your career, Kerry can offer you advice from her vast experience, because she has worked on budgets as low as $1,100 for My Date with Drew, and as high as $35 million plus projects on the Agent Cody Banks franchise. So whether you're considering filmmaking as an option or you're well into the filmmaking process already, it is always a good idea of having an expert at your fingertips. So that is a plus. You have to be crazy to not want the expertise of this woman. If you have obstacles, challenges, you're going to encounter them. We encounter them in life. So you're certainly going to encounter them when you're making a film, especially if you've never done it before. So a lot of people really, 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 really need help with the fundraising. How do I get money for my film? If you initially got money and you ran out, how do I get more money? Well, I've never cast before. I don't want to hire someone for casting. How do I cast? The production, marketing, distribution. The expert. Consult with an expert before you start this process, and it can definitely lighten the weight of your production. So Kerry does this for you. And I really do not think, honestly, I have ever seen another website of anyone who does this. And what I was more impressed by was that she actually has a page on there, and I'll let her tell you more about it. But I loved the fact that she actually had her services broken down, like how much a phone call would cost, how much a consultation would cost. And that's really great, because as a person who is thinking, oh my God, this woman is a multiple award-winning producer, she is going to be a fortune. I'm not even going to bother calling her, because she'd never take time to even talk to me, or I couldn't afford it. And what's great is that she has a price range on the website. If I remember correctly. If I'm wrong, she is going to lay me out when I talk to her. But I think I was right that there is sort of an idea of what the services cost. So that is what's really great. You'll know if you can start out. And you know what? Even if you don't think you have the money, at least call her. you never know. You never know what's going to happen. Now, also, she owns a company called Lucky Crow Films. She is the founder and CEO, and she's also involved with indieproducer.net, which I'm not sure how that involvement is, but we're going to find out. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome on your end. I hear you clapping now. I hear you clapping for Miss Kerry David. Welcome to the show, Kerry.
Hi, Priscilla. I think I'm going to hire you now to walk in front of me every time I go into a room. I'm going to have you go and announce me. You're
love
amazing.
And you know what? You deserve to have somebody bring a big picket sign into the room before you enter. I highly recommend that you hire someone to do that for you, because you deserve your very own marching band and your little picket sign of arrival for sure, especially if you are walking into a room to teach people how to work on their projects. Now, I start out with the very same question with anyone, because it kind of gets the ball rolling, and everybody wants to know, because what you are now may not have been what you wanted to be when you were a child. So my very first question to my guests is, what did you want to be or do when you were a child?
I wanted to be an international show jumper.
Ooh, tell us. And where did that come from? What were you looking at what made you want to do that?
Well, I've been riding horses since I was 5, and next to filmmaking, it's my passion. So I always thought that I'd be an international show jumper, and actually it got me out of taking chemistry in school, because you had to take 3 sciences, and I hated science. So I told them I was going to be a show jumper. I wouldn't need chemistry, and they let me off chemistry. I think I was the first student ever to opt out of a science, but clearly that wasn't going to be my path. And I think it wasn't until I got to America that I even thought about being a producer. But being a producer is a certain skill set. If you're the sort of person that goes into a situation and you see havoc and you want to make order out of that havoc, you probably have most of the skills you'll need to be a producer.
Wow, I like how you pinpointed that. So I love that, because that is a great place to start out, because it's so very important that you have certain characteristic traits. I tell people, because I used to be an employment counselor, a career counselor, and I used to tell people, they say, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what career path to follow, I say, you got to have not only, you can go 4 years and be educated. You get a master's, you can get doctorate, you can get PhDs. But if your personality is not compatible with that field, you're going to be very unhappy. It doesn't matter how much education you have. You also have to have the characteristic traits. You really, really do. So my question is, what characteristic traits do you feel, characteristic traits only, do you feel that it takes to be a great producer?
Okay, so I think that you have to be empathetic. You really have to have a lot of empathy. I think you have to have direction. You've got to have storytelling capabilities. You have to have... I like to think that if you can step back and look at the big picture, I think it makes you a really good producer. I know a lot of producers some can be pretty myopic, but I think you have to be a big picture thinker. I think you have to be able to command a big audience, because, some of our crews become like a couple of hundred people. I think you have to know exactly what it is that you want, and I think you have to be able to articulate that. I think you have to be able to talk to people, and I think you should be able to listen to people, not just bark orders, but seriously listen to the people around you. I think, to be a producer, it's sort of like, it's like being the CEO of IBM. There's so many different departments that you have to not only know about and be in control of, but have empathy for and understanding.
Okay. And obviously that's true. Now, for a person who's considering a career in the film business and wants to become a producer, what advice would you give them as to where they can go to get properly educated about the business side of things? Because you can go either route. You can go from work your way up, or you can feel a little bit more secure by getting properly educated. What advice would you give them of where they can go to really get the best education about the business side of things?
I've changed my mind about what that would have been. I mean, a few years ago, I would have answered differently. But I think because our industry is so ever changing, especially in the last few years, But I really do think the best way to get that education is to be on set, and you need to either shadow a producer, be a PA on the set, and find out exactly what goes on. But really, it's all about hands-on experience. I mean, you can learn the theory of producing, but the theory of it and then getting in there and actually being a producer is so different. I think even if you were able to produce a short film, you would at least have a sense of the kind of things that can go wrong. For instance, what do you do if you lose a location? Well, on a short film, it can be, it can be a catastrophe because you have X amount of dollars and X amount of days, but multiply that by multi-millions, and then you realize what it is that a producer has to keep their eye on all the time. So I really do think that experience is a lot more, I think, beneficial than the theory of producing.
Mm-hmm. So what if you start out, all right, let's say we go the way of on-the-job training, but say you start out as a PA, which she's talking about a production assistant. For those of you who don't know that, you should, but, you start out as a PA, which is normally the route that you take to become a producer. And say because right now, as you know, our economy is in the toilet, and there aren't too many. From what I understand, the projects are slim and far between, and it's pretty much a click of who gets what projects, blah, 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 blah. Say you're just starting out and you're only getting non-union stuff, and it just keeps on a year, 2 years, 3 years. Do you feel that you should set some sort of goals to move into getting something else, and how would you do that?
No, not at all. Okay, not at all. I mean, the whole point of producing is the act of doing. So if you've waited 3 years, then I don't think that you should be a producer. I think that a producer needs to be in control of a project and working it through and getting it up and running. And I don't mind if that's, like we had $1,100 and we made a movie called My Date with Drew that has been recently called the 4th most profitable movie of all time from budget to revenue. And we did that with $1,100. So being a producer isn't about how much money you have. It's what can you pull together to make a project. I started doing this 18 years ago, and that was when you really did have to go work at a studio if you wanted making films. But, with the advent of the cameras that you can get from any store now, and the flip camera especially, there's no reason that you shouldn't be making a film. If you want to be a filmmaker and you want to produce films, then you don't have an excuse not to be doing it yourself. I really think it comes down to networking, because the more you network and the wider your net for the people who are in the film industry, then the more chance you have of staying in it and doing the work. You had mentioned in my intro about Indie Producer and what my connection was to it. Well, I founded Indie Producer, and I did it 10 years ago, and I did it exactly for the reason we're talking about right now. I had been working for Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman for 3 years, and it was amazing, and I was meeting the creme de la creme. I left Tom and Nicole and started my own production company, and the first project that I optioned was Agent Cody Banks. And I set that up at MGM, and I was astounded by thinking that I had set myself going to be an easy, sorry, that's my dog, that's going to be an easy way to get it, to continue and being a top producer. What I didn't realize was that there was this system whereby the studio system didn't want the new independent filmmakers to be a part of the system. There was sort of a them and an us situation, and I thought, well, I know a lot of independent filmmakers. How can we all network together? And I started indieproducer.net, basically for filmmakers to network. And so my first newsletter went out to 43 people, and we're now I think we reach 80,000 people. So clearly we've gone up in the world.
Oh, yeah.
It's something that it's something that I feel really passionate about, because there used to be a time when you had to wait for somebody with lots of money to come and invest in you so you could go make your film. I have a couple of films out right now. One's in theaters, and I'm working on a documentary with Michelle Cove, who's a director in Boston. We raised all our financing ourselves for that documentary in various ways, and I did not go to any industry people or financing people to do that. It was just a question of, what do you need right now to get through the next couple months? And then you do that, and then you raise more money. And there are so many more ways to do that. There's, we did it through Kickstarter, and we also did it through having our own fundraiser. You can do it through Indiegogo. There are so many ways now to do that once you've exhausted your friends and family.
So do you feel that having someone with you, I think you had just mentioned a partner, do you feel that might be the way to go for someone who's just starting out, to kind of connect with someone and work together to get the financing, or could you really try it on your own?
No, I mean, I'll answer that in a couple of ways. I have a partner. His name is John Gunn. He's a director. He's a writer-director. And we have a company together called Lucky Crow Films. And John and I have made several projects together, and I love working with John, but he's actually writing 2 projects for DreamWorks right now. So when I'm not working with John, then I'm looking for other projects that I want to be involved with, and that might be something that I found and I'm going to go get the people to be a part of. Or it could be something that someone brought to me that I've just loved. And that's what happened with Michelle Cove and Seeking Happy Ever After. She came to me, I guess she had seen my date with Drew a couple of years after we'd made it, and she tracked me down and she said, you are the producer for me. Please take a look at this idea that I have. And she had what I thought was a fantastic idea. And so I became a part of that project. So it's not a question that I started out with a partner. It's just that you end up partnering with people that you like working with. Michelle and I just love working together. I'm sure we'll make lots of projects together. So in terms of, though, the financing with your partners, for me, every single project is like it's like moving to a new area. You're going to make a ton of new friends. It just depends on how dedicated, as I said, the financing of it, though, it depends on how dedicated everybody on that project is. Michelle and I are so dedicated to financing this project, we let nothing stand in our way. John and I are the same way. I've worked with several other people who are like, you guys find the money. I'm good. I'm just going to do this. It really depends on who you're working with and what that person's like.
When you first start out, of course, you run into a multitude of people, and I don't know if you've personally experienced this, but a lot of them are a little flaky, and everybody wants to do this and do that and do that, but then as soon as something else comes along, they lose their focus and move on, and then you're just kind of stuck with your vision. How and where do you go to actually find people that are as dedicated to you if it's your project? How do you kind of guarantee something happens? You
can't guarantee it. That's the bottom line. But, when you see the people like Spielberg and Clint Eastwood, that they all work with the same people, movie after movie, it's because they trust each other. I've always said this, that, there's a lot of flaky people in our industry because there's a lot of money in our industry, so there's a lot of greed in our industry, and you do get to meet a lot of bad people. But you also get to meet a lot of great people. Once you've met that great person, you've got to be loyal to them. If you promise that person something, you better show up, because if you don't, then you shouldn't expect that they'd show up for anything you're doing. Like, I really strongly believe that networking is not only about you asking someone to do work for you for free, is that when you're starting out, that you've got to be out there doing a lot of work for other people for free. On indieproducer.net, we have a message board where people are always saying, I'm doing a movie this weekend, somebody help me out, or I'm making a short, or I'm doing a commercial. We have 6,000 profiles posted, and that's all across the world. So really have no excuse not to be working.
Exactly. You just got to get out there and look. And my God, you got enough venues to do that. Now, what do you feel is the best way for a director, producer to get noticed by the right people? And who are those people? Now, I know you had just covered that, networking, obviously. But Let's talk about who are the right people for people just starting out. They may not know who the right people are. If you're a producer, who are the right people? Where do you go?
Well, here's the thing. The right person has to be the person who gets you to the next job. If you're just starting out, then the right person for you is who's going to see me and hire me for the next job. How do you do that? Well, a multitude of ways. You were saying if you're a director or a producer, right? So if you're a director or a producer, the way to get recognized is to direct or produce something pretty sensational. And that's on you. So you have to do that. Once you've done that, then what do you do with your project? Well, for sure, you can enter in the millions of film festivals that have popped up now, which there are, or you can be really smart, get it on YouTube and get your numbers up, because it used to be that you would just have to try to impress the studio execs. But now, if you can we have 3 million hits on YouTube, you take that into a meeting, that's going to do more for you than anything you could have done before YouTube popped up, because you're actually showing the executive, look, not only am I good, but my project has already attracted 3 million people. So now they're looking at marketing. Okay, well, he's already marketed to 3 million people. That's good. That's a great start. I'm interested in this,
Social media, actually, everybody should know that's the way to go. So say you put a clip from your 10-minute film on YouTube. Sometimes it can sit there and only get 165 looks in a year. Yeah. What do you do to get it to go viral?
Okay, so It's like that question is like if there was a real answer to that question, people would bottle it and sell it. There is no real answer.
Yes, I want the bottled version, please.
Don't we all? I want it too. So, but what can you do is basically the more it's such a double-edged sword because, you know, the more filmmakers are getting into this and the more they're using social media, they're just oversaturating it. And basically what you have to do is, how do I get my movie to shout louder than any other movie? That's a bit like saying, well, look, I've just released my movies in theaters. How am I going to get people to see it?
Right.
It's on you. How creative can you be? You know, do you have stars in your movie? What kind of work are they willing to do for you? Are they willing to go on, you know, talk shows for you? In which case, you know, what contacts do you have? Can you hire a publicist to help you out? Can you hire someone whose marketing skills work really well for your project? Can you think of something really incredible that's going to blow people away and get attention on your film? Because these are the things that we've been wrestling with since day one on filmmaking. You know, it's always trying to get your movie out there above other movies. So if you don't have the money, you have to be creative.
And for people who don't have a lot of money, now, of course, the ideal thing would to have a publicist, but as you know, they're pretty pricey. What would you say that a person could do to kind of locally, say they're just doing this locally and they're just starting out?
Yeah,
what could they do? They don't have any money. Say they're living out of their damn car with their little camera. What are they going to do realistically?
Realistically, have a fundraiser. Have a fundraiser. If you're doing this locally, have a fundraiser at your local hall, whatever that hall is, community center, church, whatever, and ask everyone in the community to donate something, and you're going to have some kind of a rummage sale, you know, for people to get there. And when they have a local band come and play, you know, one of the things that I'm working with right now is product placement on a lower level, not on the $35 million movie, you know, plus level, but on a lower level, which is, okay, if I put, you know, Harry and George's shop in my movie, what's that worth to Harry and George? Are they going to give me $1,000 to do that? Because this may get some kind of airtime, and then go to somebody else in the community who would benefit by having their product be placed in your film. So, I mean, you're not going to be asking the kind of money you'd ask for a big movie, but you can certainly ask for something, and all of that will go into, now your community is talking about, well, my store's in this movie, you should come and see this movie. It's all about getting the word out. So I find the best way to do that is have as many people invested in your project as possible, because those people will tell their circle of friends. So you're already expanding on your own circle of friends.
I am so glad that you brought that up, because I want to move on to the next thing, which is, now I think that's great, the product placement for advertising. Everybody's doing it. My God, you can't watch Bones without hearing about a Ford commercial. And they've gotten very sneaky because, you know, most people have DVRs, and if they're like me, we just forward through the commercials. We don't even watch them.
Right.
Now it's actually being placed within the script. It's right. Being advertised on the script. I just watched an episode of Bones where the two of them incorporated how many miles you could get out of a Ford car. So right. I love that idea, and I want to know, do you think that is going to be, now it's being done now, but do you think that that's a way of the future? And how do you feel about it? Now, as a producer, you're all for it, but do you think that the writers are going to be with you and on board and say, I don't mind incorporating that line into my script? How do you feel about that?
I'll tell you what I would say to any writer who said that to me. We were trying to get a movie up. I'd say, do you want to make a movie or not make a movie? Because they're going to give us $5 million. And I think that would shut the writer up. I think, you know, I think the point is that it's being done now and has been done for a long time. And who does it better than The Apprentice? I mean, that show is one big advertisement. I think that to do it is, you know, I would never put something in one of my projects that was glaringly product placement, you know, that would take you outside of what we're doing. Like you just said in Bones, to me, I would never do that. That's taking me outside, and that's trying to make something else part of our show that really isn't organic to the show. But, you know, but if I were doing something on a bigger scale where I needed, you know, two trucks tracing, would I bid it out to Ford and Nissan and Toyota until I got the highest price? Sure, I would. Yeah. I mean, who wants their product in my already existing car scene? You know, the thing about movies today now, because as you had said, our economy is tanking, so trying to find that kind of money is really difficult. I mean, it's never been easy, but now it's super difficult unless you have a star or you have a studio behind you. It really is a challenge to make the bigger projects. But the point is, everybody has to work together. It has to be collaborative. The writer, I'm just thinking in my group of writers that I know that any one of them would turn to me and say, hey, I don't want that to happen, if they knew that it was contingent on the film being made. And I don't know any of them that would say that. I think the peer group that I have understand how difficult it is to make a movie and know that you'd be doing it for the sake of the movie and getting it made.
Well, I am so glad you said that, because I am right with you. It's like, what is the big deal? You can write it in. If you want to get your movie made, write it in. But I tell you, you know, you run across all kinds of writers, and they think their product is the gospel. So it's a little hard for someone that you're working with like that. And I don't really know how you could head that off at the pass, because I have been told by writers, I'm not going to do that. That's so tacky and desperate. And I say, well, you know, you can feel that way, but you got to do it. That's what's being done these days. Look at most of your shows, especially on Fox. You're going to see it.
But I'll tell you what you can tell your friend who's a writer. I had an Oscar-nominated writer I have a movie in theaters right now called Like Dandelion Dust, and it was written by Steve Ravel, who wrote Ali, and he wrote Nixon, copying Beethoven. I mean, he's a genius, speaks 5 languages, has written several novels, and is somebody I think is amazing in our industry. And I have product placement from Cartier, I have it from Scrabble, I have it from horse riding regalia. I mean, I've got it across the board, and he had no problem with any of it, none of it at all. And he's been around for, you know, he's an A-list writer. He's been around for a long, long time.
Well, see, that's why he's an A-list writer, because he doesn't have that blocked-in mentality. So that's who you got to choose, people. If you're a producer, you got to make sure that your writers are open-minded. Now, let's go back to what you said and talk a little bit about the product placing, getting people to help with the financing. Okay, so you were just talking about how you're going around right now and you're getting people to, in the community, contribute 1,000 here, 1,000 there. And that is lovely. But let's now talk about the business side of that. You go around asking all these people to contribute money. Somebody says to you, Kerry, oh my God, I'd love to give you $5,000, but am I going to get a percentage of that if the movie goes big? What do you do about this?
Okay, so my company is every movie that you probably know this, but I have a company called Lucky Crow Films, and then any movie that I do under that is its own entity. So I have an entity called Shea Productions, which is an acronym for Seeking Happily Ever After, and that's an LLC. It's a 501c, so it's a charity, which means that anybody who donates to us will get a tax break. In terms of will they get anything from us as part of the movie, no, I don't have a setup like that, but I'm not against that. I actually think that there is a model for making movies whereby that is, I mean, I guess a little variation on that is what I'd like to do is have people pay me $25 up front for the DVD that's coming in a couple years, well, maybe a year and a half. And so they're investing in you as a filmmaker. You go make your movie, and then they're the first to get the DVD. And then I think that's a model I'd like to work with. It's not what we have right now. As I say, anything that was given to us was a tax deduction. On Kickstarter, I don't know if you know about Kickstarter.com, we needed post-production money. So we went on Kickstarter.com, and that's a way whereby you can say to them, if you give us $50 or less, then we'll give you a signed DVD. If you give us $100 or less, you get my director has also written a book on the documentary, so you'd get a signed book. You know, you can do whatever level you want on Kickstarter.com. We had 5 people give us $1,000 because we sold off credits on the movie for co-producers. So you see, we just got very creative with it. You can do whatever you want. But
associate producer, $1,000. Why not?
That's right. That's
so
what
do you now? Something you said a couple minutes ago. So you were able to do this, of course, because you obviously started your own production company. So you became incorporate, and you're doing this legally, and you are able to do this because you started.
You should do that with you should do any single person working on a movie. If you're a producer, you should set up an LLC, because if you don't do that and you get into trouble, then people can come after your personal assets. You've got to start up an LLC, which is your production, what is your production entity. And that can be either a standalone or it can be a subsidiary of your company. But That's vital that you do that.
That's exactly what I wanted to talk about. That's very important because people seem to think, as you know, they can go around and I have so many friends that do this. They do these guerrilla films. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? You shoot a pool scene and somebody dives off the pool and becomes paralyzed, God forbid, you're responsible. Yep. They don't seem to understand that. Can you talk a little bit about how important, even if it's your first film and you don't even know what the hell you're doing, how important it is to go the business route and what they need to do that?
Okay, it's crucial. It's absolutely crucial that if you're starting a project that you set up an LLC for it. I just saw on TV the other day there's an online website called LegalZoom.com, which is some kind of legal site, and they were offering setting up LLCs for $200 plus filing fees. So I thought, well, who can argue with that? That's nothing.
Right.
So there's no reason not to have an LLC, and you set it up, and then everything that goes to your movie, everything goes through that LLC. And it's to protect you. It's to protect the production. I couldn't imagine anybody not doing that.
Now,
when somebody might.
Exactly, I'm with you, girl. Now, when you set this up, let's talk about how you need to get insurance for your company and where you go to do that.
Well, I mean, especially now, I think you should always bid out your insurance. You definitely want production insurance. And once you finish your movie, you want E&O insurance, which stands for errors and omissions, which means basically anything you forgot to insure, thinking that you had done it, this will back you up. It's absolutely vital. You have to be insured. I mean, you wouldn't get in your car uninsured and then, drive out into the middle of, Los Angeles. I mean, well, maybe you would.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody would, But it's not a good thing because if somebody hits you or you hit somebody else, obviously someone's going to have to pay for it. So, yeah, production insurance, absolutely.
Now, your company, because of the services you provide, I mean, everything. I mean, you provide everything that a person needs to learn all of this, right? So,
yeah.
My question to you is there a company that you know of for a person to say, okay, well, I want to do it the way Kerry is telling me. I want to make it legal. I want to learn what all I need to get insurance. Is there a company or a website that you have found that someone can go to and learn everything that they need to do it properly? Because it's not enough to go to the courthouse and file for your paperwork. There are other things that you need to know. Have you come across a website like that from a business that tells you that?
I really haven't, actually. Now you bring it up, it's never even crossed my mind. I mean, I haven't, because that's always something that you'd have someone do. I mean, if they have a product already, that it's something that you figure they would have done already. Right. I find myself helping a lot of. Here's the thing. I started Indie Producer because I wanted to get that community together. Unfortunately, I mean, unless you know me, I can't help you personally, but I do things throughout the company to try to get as much information to my members as possible, as much free stuff as possible. I have a screenwriting contest and a short film contest because I know the most important thing to filmmakers is access to people who can help you, access to people who really can get you to the next step. So that's something that I do, but it still isn't one-on-one, which is why I started my consulting site, which is that then I thought, this is something where a producer could sit down with me and say, hey, I know that I need to do an LLC. I don't know anything else. And then that would be a consultation with me, and I could sit down and have that conversation with them. But I had to do it. Here's the thing. I didn't want to charge the earth, but I had to do it in a way that would make it worth my while stepping away from my film to be giving this information out.
Absolutely.
So I think I priced it very reasonably. My business is doing great in that respect. I can't do it when I'm actually filming because obviously I'm filming, but once filming ends and I'm out of post, then I definitely start scheduling meetings again.
Now, see, Kerry is a type of person that you want to call to learn. Okay, well, I was just listening. I'm expecting to get this email as soon as we finish the show. I heard you and Kerry talking, and now I'm scared to do my first project, or I've been doing 20, and I don't want anyone to have an accident. I want to contact Kerry. All right, that's great. Go to kerrydavid.com. Kerry, what all can you help a person with? Now, obviously, you can help them set up their own LLC, but tell us all of the other things that you do.
It depends on who's needing the help, because I work with writers, producers, directors. I don't work with many actors, and that's because it's not somewhere that I feel my expertise is the most helpful. I think actors, there's other places actors can go that's more beneficial to them.
Let's talk about a music video. Say I want to do a music video. Let's narrow it down so you can focus. Let's say Kerry, I want to do a music video. What do I do? I've never done one before. How can you help me?
Well, a friend of mine who's a very talented director, I think, he just did his first music video, and it was sort of an amalgam, really. It was very, very contained, and they didn't have production insurance, and they didn't start a company because it was friends helping friends, and there really wasn't any main one person who sort of said, okay, this is my production, I'm doing it. It was like one guy said, hey, I want to do this. One guy said, hey, that sounds like fun. So really it was a bunch of people getting together, and they made a fantastic video, I think, for Tony Dessert. Who's a great talent. But in terms of someone coming to me, I would say first thing you have to do is just have an LLC for yourself, because it just means that even if you don't have to set up an LLC for every production that you're doing, you've got to have something that protects you from your personal assets. And so even if you call it, Kerry David LLC, then that's your LLC, and that's what you work through. So then you would start looking for, are you talking that you want to know how to go through production insurance and who to get involved in hiring people? Because or are you just, because that's like an hour-long conversation, but are you talking about functionally how would I do it?
Right. I'm asking you what are some of the things somebody should know? Obviously, they need to get insurance. Obviously, what else would you recommend to them?
Yeah, for sure. So the most important thing that I think new producers forget to do because they work with their friends is that you've always got to have releases signed by anybody in front of the camera and waivers signed, and you've got to have anything that's in your production. You have to have documents saying that you have the ability to use and view everything that is being presented. And I would say, as a new-time producer, go overboard. If you're not sure if something should have a release or a waiver, get it anyway. Because what has happened in the past is that group of filmmakers get together, they make a film, and they think, oh, this is going to be really fun. It ends up doing really well, and now they want distribution, but the legal costs are astronomical because they didn't get any of the legal documents when they should have. They didn't get a location. They're in locations. They didn't get any kind of an agreement saying that we have the right to use this location, that this location can be on camera. And these documents are everywhere online. You can definitely find those. That's not a problem. We have some on our site, but I think that they're all over. That's not a problem.
You just need to know what to look for and need that you know them, which most people don't know, what they do. Because one thing you don't want to do is spend all of this money, hard-earned money, making a music video or a film, and you do not have permission to have somebody sign, and then you go to try to get distribution, and they say, oh, so where is the paperwork saying that you have permission, and you don't have it, you're gone. Forget about it.
Right? Case in point, I was at a film festival, I think it was in Sonoma last year, and there was a fantastic documentary that was based on this group who, it turns out, are the group behind many of the major songs in the 60s. These group of guys actually played on the records, and no one ever knew about it. So they had about 60 number one hits in this documentary, and they are unable to ever distribute it because they can't get the music clearance on any of the, maybe they get 5 or 6 of the songs, but they can't clear any of the other songs because they didn't do it while they were doing the documentary. And now there's too many different music production houses that are, nobody wants to do it. So this guy he spent, I think, 10 years making this documentary, which was sensational. He was able to get festival license only, which meant that he was able to play festivals without paying too much. But think about 60 songs, even if you're paying $100. Yeah, it racks up. So, you're going to be really smart. For instance, some people don't realize if they have a song in their film that they don't know the difference between have I licensed the song or do I own that? Did I buy that song? There's a big difference because if you want to have some kind of an exclusivity, you want to buy out that song so that songwriter can never use that song again, that it's yours. You've made this fantastic film, and then there's a Toyota commercial before your film comes out that has that great song in it. Now, not such a great song.
Right. And if it's a person who is your cousin's friend that you met in Peoria, you could probably buy the song. But if it's a commercial, a commercial song from Whitney Houston, I don't even know. I think Kerry would have to answer that question. Could you even use it? That's a whole process in itself.
You know what? When we made My Date with Drew, we had, I think, we had like 6 of Universal Music's number 1 hits that they ever sell. And, you know, it would have cost us like $6 million. We actually had Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi in our film, and when we went to go try clearance, they wouldn't let us have it. So we ended up getting a hold of Bon Jovi in his studio in New Jersey, who said, you know, you had the balls to call me, send your movie. I'll let you know if I want the song in it. We sent him our film. He loved our film. He said, yep, you can do it. But here's the thing. I don't own the rights to that song anymore. You have to go back to Universal, but at least I'll tell them I want it in there. And we'd already had, you know, many conversations with Universal who said, well, you can't afford it. They wouldn't tell us how much it was. They just said you can't afford it. So when John called them up, they called us with their lawyer saying, you can have the song, but it's $50,000. Well, they knew that our budget was $1,100 for the whole film, so they knew that it was out of our range. So we ended up not getting that. But we have another song in our film called All By Myself. Very famous song. We had to do the same thing there because Universal wouldn't let us have it. So we tracked down the songwriter. His brother was his attorney. We got a hold of his mother. They watched our movie. They turned around. They loved it. They did still own the rights, and they told Universal, give it to them for nothing. And that's, I mean, not nothing, but we could afford it.
See that? I love the way your mind works. I like how you think outside the box, because that's exactly what I would do. I would track you down if you were skeet shooting, if I wanted to get the rights to that song. And I love how you have that bulldoze mentality. I love that so much. And that's what you really need to have. And that's one of the characteristics of being a great producer. So, you know what? It's 5:47. We got 3 minutes, and I want to make sure that I get everything that you're currently doing and any of your upcoming projects. Tell us a little bit about that. What's going on?
Okay, so I have a movie in theaters now starring Mira Sorvino and Barry Pepper, and we've won 39 awards with this film. We got a standing ovation when we played in France last year. It's called Like Dandelion Dust, so you can see that in your local theater. I have a documentary coming out in February called Seeking Happily Ever After, which was based on a U.S. census that said there were more single women in their 30s today than any other time in history. So we made a documentary about that. We just won the New York United Film Festival last weekend with it, and we were nominated Best Director, Best Documentary here in L.A., and then that's at seekinghappilyeverafter.com. And I'm actually right now embarking on my first reality show with Endemol. So I'm excited about that. I'm not allowed to say too much about it, but it is with the Hells Angels.
Woo! Now, I am a reality television show fanatic. There's not one that I don't have TiVoed. So we can't talk about it. Oh, I feel so restricted. I want to know. But how can we find out more? Are you going to post that on kerrydavid.com?
I definitely will. I'll put it as soon as I can. We should know more by January the 1st because we hope to be filming very early next year. Yes, but I will definitely post that on kerrydavid.com, and I will probably put it on the newsletter for indieproducer.net. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, my God. So if you want Kerry David's services, obviously this woman, as you heard, she is rocking and rolling and just paving the way. There's smokes coming off of her stilettos, and you want this woman to help you with your vision in every aspect, from marketing, distribution, casting, fundraising, etc. I love personally her fundraising mentality, and I think it's what you need in this day and age, because you really need to think outside the box to get your little hot hands on every coin that you can get to fund your movie. Right, Kerry?
Yeah, absolutely. And Priscilla, any of your guests who are listening right now get 10% off any of my services if they mention your name.
Woo! Well, I'm going to call you and mention my name, because I'm going to be having you tell me how to do a music video, because my husband's driving me crazy to do one, even though he doesn't want to hear. I'll be calling you next year, girl. All right, thank you
darling.
so much, my love. kerrydavid.com, indieproducer.net. God bless you. Please.
Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you so much.
Keep doing what you're doing and helping people. You offer a wonderful service. You are touched by God, obviously, and thank you for touching other people. Thank you, Kerry.
Oh, thank you so much, Priscilla. You take care.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
You're listening to Question Reality. Question Reality. with Priscilla Leona. Only on LA Talk Radio.